So you think you know George Orwell.
Right, everybody thinks they know Orwell.
I mean, you know the politics, you know the big books, and you probably think books themselves are just, quiet collections of paper and ink.
Safe, passive.
Exactly. Safe. They belong in dusty libraries. But they aren't safe. And you don't know Orwell. Because today, we have absolute, undeniable proof that literature is, it's a blood sport.
Oh, it's an active war zone. And most people are just completely, entirely oblivious to the crossfire happening right over their heads.
Because think about it. You are constantly being fed information. Every single day, you are told exactly what to think about historical figures.
Yeah, you get the sanitized version.
Right. Prepackaged, sanitized opinions. And we just accept them, because it's easy, it's safe. But today, on this deep dive, we are going to show you how intellectual reputations are actually stolen.
Right in broad daylight.
In broad daylight. And more importantly, we're going to show you how a true intellectual fights to take them back.
We're basically looking at the mechanics of a hostage rescue.
A hostage rescue, exactly.
But the hostage is a legacy. It's a dead man's reputation.
Spot on. And our mission today is incredibly specific. I mean, we are not reading an entire biography here.
No, don't.
We are not analyzing some 1,000-page historical text. We are looking exclusively at a single, everyday object. We are examining the back cover of Christopher Hitchens' book, Orwell's Victory.
Literally just the back cover, the critical reception, the little blurbs they put on the back to sell the thing.
6 tiny quotes.
Yeah.
6 small paragraphs. But hidden inside these specific quotes is the ultimate, unfiltered blueprint for intellectual warfare.
It really is.
We're going to tear these 6 quotes apart, word by excruciating word. Because the reviewers who wrote these blurbs, they didn't use standard polite language.
Not at all.
They used the language of absolute destruction.
They completely dropped the mask. I mean, usually literary criticism pretends to be this polite, civilized tea party.
Right. Very proper.
But these reviewers, they are actively admitting that the tea party has been violently crashed.
So let's jump right into the first detonation. Literally. This is our first quote. It's from Jeffrey Wheatcroft, writing for The Spectator. And he describes Hitchens' work with just 5 words. He calls it a firecracker of a book.
A firecracker? I really want you, the listener, to just hold that word in your mind for a second. A firecracker.
It is entirely jarring. Like I said earlier, books are supposed to be quiet. They belong in quiet study rooms. They're supposed to be deep and measured and permanent.
Yeah, a firecracker is literally none of those things.
0.
A firecracker is cheap. It's chaotic. It exists for one singular purpose, which is to shatter silence.
To make you jump.
Exactly. It does not provide a warm, comforting glow. You do not read a book by the light of a firecracker.
You flinch, you cover your ears. It is purely disruptive. But wait, let me push back on this a little bit. Let's look at this critically. A firecracker isn't a tool, right? It's a toy.
Okay.
It's erratic. If you hold it too long, it blows up in your hand and burns your fingers. So why is describing a serious academic defense as a firecracker a compliment? Honestly, it kind of sounds like a backhanded insult.
Like he's calling it lightweight.
Yeah, like he's saying it's just short-lived noise. Bang. And then it's over.
See, it only sounds like an insult if you believe the current silence is healthy.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we have this profound misconception about academic consensus. We think that when everyone agrees on a historical figure, we've achieved this great, healthy silence. The truth is, polite consensus is often just a graveyard.
Oh, a graveyard of ideas.
Exactly. Orwell's legacy was totally trapped in this graveyard. He was buried under decades of boring, sterile, predictable debates. Everyone had politely agreed on exactly which little box to put Orwell in.
The anti-communist box. The 1984 box.
Right. And the air in that room was completely dead. Nobody was saying anything new.
So when the air is dead, you don't need a scalpel to dissect the problem.
No, you need explosives. Polite disagreement changes absolutely nothing. If you walk into a stagnant room and whisper a polite objection, nobody even looks up. You just get absorbed into the silence.
But if you light a firecracker and chuck it into the center of the library,
every single head turns. Instantly.
It forces a physical reaction. You cannot passively ignore a firecracker going off at your feet.
No, you either jump out of the way or you try to stomp it out. But you must react.
So Wheatcroft is issuing a massive warning to the reader here. He's basically saying, look, do not buy this book if you want a comforting lullaby about George Orwell.
Buy this book only if you are prepared for the shockwave.
Right. But does a firecracker actually leave anything of value behind? Because it goes bang, you get a quick flash of light, and then there's just a cloud of really acrid smoke. The noise is temporary.
The noise is temporary, yeah, but the shattered glass is permanent.
Oh, wow.
The shockwave breaks the rigid ideological boxes that people had locked Orwell inside. Sometimes you desperately need the smoke to clear out the stagnant air.
So it's an act of intellectual violence.
It is a necessary violence. We tend to view literature as passive consumption. You sit in a chair, you sip your coffee, and you consume the text.
Yeah, it's a cozy aesthetic.
But Hitchens writes a book that actively consumes the room. It pops, it startles, it physically demands that you wake up.
Which brings us to a really crucial question. If Hitchens is throwing firecrackers, who is he throwing them at? Like, who is the enemy in this intellectual war zone?
And this is where the standard narrative completely collapses. It's wild.
It's a total slap in the face. Because here's the second quote. Robert Hanks in the Daily Telegraph states the core mission of Hitchens' book. He says the mission is to rescue George Orwell's reputation.
Okay, standard stuff so far.
Right, every biography claims to rescue a reputation. But then Hanks drops the bomb. He says Hitchens must rescue Orwell both from his detractors and from some of his adherents.
From his adherents, literally from his own fans.
Rescuing someone from their haters makes perfect logical sense. If someone is dragging your name through the mud, a defender steps in.
Right, you fight the bad guys.
But rescuing an author from his adherents, that is completely counterintuitive.
It totally shatters our entire understanding of legacy.
It's insane. Think about it practically. Adherents are the ones who buy the books. They keep the literary estate funded.
They print the T-shirts.
Exactly. They teach the syllabus in universities. They are the absolute life support system of a legacy. So if you attack an author's fan base, aren't you just unplugging the life support? How does loving an author's work destroy their legacy?
Because that kind of love is rarely genuine affection.
What is it then?
That kind of love is almost always ownership in disguise.
Ownership, like a property right.
Yes. When people adopt a thinker as their idol, they do not want a complex, messy, contradictory human being. Complex humans are incredibly inconvenient.
Because they change their minds. They make mistakes.
Right, and they say things that challenge you. Adherents don't want a challenge, they want a mascot.
So they flatten him. They turn a three-dimensional guy into a 2D cardboard cutout.
They completely strip away all the nuance. They weaponize the author's name to serve their own modern political agendas. They hollow out the man and they stuff him with their own talking points.
It is intellectual taxidermy.
Intellectual taxidermy. That is the perfect phrase for it. You take this brilliant, unpredictable, living human named George Orwell, you kill his actual spirit, you mount him on your ideological wall, and then you point to him whenever you enter a debate and say, look, George Orwell agrees with me, therefore I am right.
So the adherent is actually a kidnapper.
The adherent is the most dangerous kind of kidnapper because they smile while they are tying you to the chair.
That's creepy.
They genuinely claim they are honoring you.
Right. It's like, I'm your biggest fan. I'm going to lock you in my ideological basement forever so no one else can have you.
Precisely. They steal his legacy. They take his words completely out of context to fight battles Orwell never even lived to see. They turn a living, breathing philosophy into a dead, rigid dogma. So Hitchens recognizes that fighting the haters, the detractors, is actually the easy part.
The haters are honest. I mean, a detractor stands in front of you and stabs you in the chest. You know exactly where you stand with a detractor.
But an adherent stands behind you. They suffocate you with a pillow while whispering into your ear about how much they revere your work.
Wow.
Hitchens is waging a brutal two-front war here. And the second front is against the people standing right next to him, wearing his team's jersey.
If your biggest threat is the people hugging you, you can't just politely ask them to step back. They won't listen. They think they own you. You have to physically break their grip.
Which perfectly explains why Hitchens has to escalate the conflict. You cannot use polite debate to break a taxidermist's grip.
And this leads us directly into our third quote. And honestly, the sheer brutality of the vocabulary being used here is wild. Forget the old cliche about the pen being mightier than the sword.
Throw it out.
According to these reviewers, the pen isn't a sword at all. The pen is a baseball bat aimed directly at the kneecaps.
We are entirely leaving the realm of civilized discourse now.
Completely abandoning it. Just listen to Noel Malcolm in the Sunday Telegraph. He calls Hitchens a controversialist. He says the real action begins when Hitchens rolls up his sleeves and reaches for his cudgels. Cudgels. A cudgel. And it gets worse. Andy Croft in The Guardian casually notes that the book includes a knee in the groin there.
Cudgels, rolling up sleeves, knees to the groin.
This is the vocabulary of a drunken street brawl. These are physical, dirty, violent street fighting terms being used to praise a literary critique. I mean, this isn't a book club. This is a back alley mugging.
It is text as blunt force trauma.
But wait, I have to challenge this, because if I buy a book about a world-famous author, I expect a high-minded debate.
Sure.
I expect rigorous citations, logical fallacies being pointed out, polite rebuttals. A metaphorical knee to the groin feels like cheap heat. It feels desperate, you know? Like if you pick up a cudgel, haven't you already lost the debate? Aren't you basically admitting your ideas aren't strong enough to stand on their own?
Well, that assumes the opponent is actually listening to your ideas. That is the fatal flaw in our modern obsession with polite debate.
What do you mean? Polite debate is the foundation of a free society.
Polite debate assumes that both sides are operating in good faith. It assumes that everyone sitting at the table genuinely wants to discover the truth.
And Hitchens believes they don't.
Hitchens knows they don't. He believes his opponents, these taxidermists, these ideological kidnappers, are fundamentally intellectually corrupt.
Corrupt how?
They are deliberately twisting Orwell's legacy for their own power. You do not bow to a corrupt opponent. You do not formally fence with a barbarian who is actively trying to burn down your house.
So a polite rebuttal is actually a form of surrender.
If you treat a bad faith liar with polite academic respect, you legitimize their lie. You give them a platform.
You make them look like a valid alternative.
Exactly. You cannot elegantly debate someone who is screaming over you with a megaphone. A cudgel isn't used to win the debate. A cudgel is used to smash their megaphone.
That completely flips the morality of the situation.
Yeah.
Because we are taught since kindergarten that the person who resorts to dirty tactics is the bad guy.
We love politeness more than we love truth. That is our weakness. We would much rather hear a polite, comforting lie than be confronted with a brutal, ugly fact.
That's entirely true.
Hitchens refuses to coddle that weakness. He refuses to play by rules that the enemy is openly mocking.
That phrase from the review, rolls up his sleeves. That is a specifically working-class, blue-collar image.
It completely destroys the image of the ivory tower academic. The traditional academic sits back in a leather chair, smoking a pipe, and observes the world from a very safe distance.
Taking notes.
Right. But Hitchens is taking off his jacket. He is getting down into the mud. Truth-telling is manual labor. You are going to get dirt under your fingernails and blood on your shirt.
And you have to be willing to kick someone in the groin. I mean, a groin kick is explicitly against the rules of combat sports. It is the definition of a dirty move.
But you only respect the rules of the ring if the other guy's actually in the ring with you. If they are attacking you in a dark alley with a broken bottle, there are no rules. Hitchens is breaking their stance. He is incapacitating their ability to spread falsehoods.
The brutality is the honesty.
It forces us to ask ourselves a really hard question. Do we want a defender who looks good losing politely, or a defender who wins ugly?
Wow. Win ugly. And the darkest part is, we don't just want him to win. We want to enjoy watching the destruction.
Oh, absolutely.
We pretend we read literary criticism to learn facts, but we are lying to ourselves.
The sniper's joy.
The sniper's joy. This brings us to the fourth quote, which is frankly chilling to me. Christopher Wood in the Times Higher Education Supplement describes Hitchens' method. He notes that Hitchens lines up some of the more Orwell doubters and gratifyingly shoots them down.
Gratifyingly shoots them down. Just listen to that.
And he goes on to talk about nailing them. And then he ends with the most revealing forewords of all. It is fun to read, too.
The reviewer openly admits to experiencing intense, visceral gratification from intellectual destruction.
It is the absolute gamification of literary debate. It sounds like a sniper sitting in a clock tower, mathematically eliminating targets through a scope and chuckling every time one drops.
Yeah, it's brutal.
But surely this is wrong. I mean, are we becoming sadists? Is it morally okay that a distinguished reviewer is having so much fun watching these doubters get mathematically eliminated?
We need to interrogate why that instinct exists in the first place. Are we sadists? No. We are human, and humans have a deep, primal craving for retributive justice.
But this isn't a courtroom dispensing justice. This is a literary execution.
In the realm of ideas, bad ideas must be executed. When someone maliciously misrepresents the truth, when they drag a dead genius through the mud for cheap political points, the universe feels out of balance.
Like they're getting away with a crime.
Exactly. So seeing that liar expertly dismantled doesn't just feel informative, it provides profound catharsis.
It restores order to the universe.
Exactly. A lie is a disruption of order. Hitchens is the corrector. He is the intellectual hitman hired to clean up the mess. And watching a master hitman work is undeniably mesmerizing.
Wood uses the phrase nailing them. It makes me think of a carpenter. Or worse, a crucifixion.
Pinning them to the wall so they literally cannot squirm away. Bad arguments rely entirely on slippery language. They rely on evasion, shifting definitions, moving the goalposts.
That's not what I meant, all that stuff.
Right. Hitchens uses logic to nail their feet to the floor. They can't retreat. They are forced to stand there and be completely exposed.
And we sit in the audience eating popcorn. Like, it is fun to read. That word fun is so bizarre in this context. Fun is for amusement parks. Fun is for video games.
But for a certain type of highly engaged mind, intellectual combat is the ultimate amusement park. Think about the stakes. The stakes are absolute truth. The weapons are rhetoric and historical fact. The casualties are unearned reputations. What could possibly be more thrilling than that?
It completely exposes the critics themselves, too. Because these are distinguished writers for prestige papers. They're supposed to be impartial, stoic judges. But Hitchens' brutality gives them permission to drop the act.
He gives them permission to admit what they really want. They don't want a dry book report summarizing Orwell's life. They want a body count of Orwell's enemies.
So, okay, we have established that this book is a brutal, explosive, groin-kicking, sniper-fire execution of Orwell's enemies. But this leads us to a massive, glaring paradox.
The stylistic contradiction.
The paradox of styles. Let's look at the fifth set of quotes. Michael Foote in the Tribune compares Hitchens' book to Orwell's own political essays. He praises Orwell, saying Orwell developed his essays to the highest pitch of simplicity and excellence.
Simplicity, remember that. Orwell wanted his writing to be like a clear pane of glass, invisible, bare, unadorned truth.
Right. You look through the glass to see the world. You don't look at the glass. But then in the very same batch of reviews, Andy Croft calls Hitchens' book chatty and witty. This is a massive, irreconcilable contradiction. Orwell is universally praised for being a transparent pane of glass. Hitchens is praised for being chatty, witty, and explosive. He is throwing stained glass bricks.
It's totally different.
How can a book that is stylistically the exact opposite of Orwell be compared to Orwell's highest achievements?
It feels wrong on a fundamental level, doesn't it?
It makes absolutely zero sense. If I want to honor Mozart, I don't play a heavy metal guitar solo. I play Mozart. If Hitchens is throwing chatty, witty bricks, he's destroying the very aesthetic that Orwell spent his entire life building. How is that an homage?
Because true homage is never about mimicry. Mimicry is just forgery.
So what is true homage?
It is about matching courage, not matching syntax.
Match the courage, not the syntax. You have to unpack that.
If Hitchens tried to write exactly like Orwell, simple, bare, unadorned sentences, it would be a cheap parlor trick. It would be a cover band playing the greatest hits. And Hitchens is way too proud to be a cover band. Orwell's greatness wasn't just a sentence structure.
What was it then?
His greatness was his absolute, terrifying refusal to bend to lies.
But why change the weapon? If the clear pane of glass works so perfectly for Orwell, why does Hitchens need the chatty, witty brick?
Because the nature of the enemy has completely changed. Orwell was facing overt, terrifying totalitarianism, fascism, Stalinism, tanks in the street.
Right, very obvious bad guys.
He needed pure, clear water to wash away massive state-sponsored propaganda. But Hitchens is writing in 2002. He is facing subtle academic bad faith, postmodernism, relativism. The enemies have adapted to the pure water. They know exactly how to pollute it.
So Hitchens needs a new chemical.
Think of it like a vaccine. Hitchens injects a small, aggressive amount of chatty, witty, caustic rhetoric to build an immune system against the bad faith actors. Orwell wrote simply because he wanted no place for lies to hide. Hitchens writes wittily because he wants to corner the liars at a cocktail party and relentlessly mock them in front of everyone.
The methodology is completely different, but the mission is identical. Total destruction of the lie.
Orwell was a solitary watchman standing on a cold wall, reporting the facts. Hitchens is a brawler in a crowded tavern, flipping over the tables. But they are fighting the exact same enemy. The twisting of language.
That is a stunning paradigm shift. He is the bodyguard of Orwell's legacy. And a bodyguard doesn't have to wear the exact same suit as the VIP.
Exactly.
The bodyguard just has to be willing to take the bullet and deal the damage.
This contradiction proves Hitchens' genius. He knows Orwell doesn't need another imitator. Orwell needs a champion.
But what exactly is Hitchens championing? If we strip away the politics, what is left. Because we think we know George Orwell simply because we know his politics. We know 1984. We know Animal Farm. We know the greatest hits.
Yeah, Big Brother, the thought police.
But according to these reviewers, we are missing 90% of the man.
We have reduced a giant to a political bumper sticker.
Noel Malcolm points out something absolutely vital here. He says this book is not only a fine defense of Orwell's politics, it is also the most stimulating introduction available to almost every other aspect of his work. Almost every other aspect.
The hidden Orwell, the actual human being beneath the monument.
The world has reduced Orwell to a purely political creature, a prophet of doom, the ultimate anti-communist icon, and we completely ignore the rest of his life. We ignore his essays on making the perfect cup of tea.
Which are brilliant, by the way.
We ignore his deep love of gardening, his literary criticism, his reflections on English country life. Hitchens forces the reader to look at the whole, complete picture.
Because you cannot possibly understand his political courage if you do not understand his humanity.
But I have to argue against this. Because politics is what made him immortal. It's what changed the course of the 20th century. Focusing on his tea and gardening feels like ignoring a brilliant chef's main course to obsess over the side salad. If the world is burning, aren't we doing exactly what Big Brother wants by retreating into the rose garden? Why wouldn't Hitchens ignore the tea and focus exclusively on the tanks?
Because that assumes the rose garden is a retreat. It isn't. The rose garden is the front line.
Wait, how is a rose garden the front line against totalitarianism? That sounds like poetry, not strategy.
If you only look at the politics, you are doing exactly what his kidnappers, the adherents, do. You are flattening him into a two-dimensional mascot. Why did Orwell fight so relentlessly against Big Brother? Was it just an abstract academic theory for him?
No.
He fought the party because totalitarian systems seek to destroy the simple, beautiful, private things in life.
They destroy the private sphere entirely.
Exactly. Totalitarianism wants all of your energy directed toward the state. A man quietly tending to his garden, enjoying a cup of tea, thinking his own private thoughts. That man is a mortal threat to Big Brother.
Because he's happy without them.
Yes. If you don't understand Orwell's fierce love for ordinary private life, you don't understand what he was actually trying to protect in the first place.
He didn't just hate the tanks. He loved the things the tanks were trying to crush.
Hitchens understands this perfectly. The other aspects of his work are not side salads, they are the soil. The political novels are just the trees that grew out of that soil. If you rip up the soil, the tree dies.
By introducing us to the whole Orwell, Hitchens makes the political courage even more profound. It wasn't the fanaticism of a political zealot. It was the reluctant courage of an ordinary man who just wanted to be left alone to plant his roses, but who saw the fascist tanks rolling down the street and knew he had to pick up a rifle.
Hitchens is watering the soil. He is demanding that we see Orwell as a flesh and blood human, full of contradictions, odd passions, and quiet hobbies.
Because a flesh and blood human is infinitely harder to hijack than a flat political symbol. A symbol can be carried by anyone. A human is heavy.
Hitchens is making Orwell heavy again so the taxidermist can't carry him away.
And to make him heavy, you have to write with a very specific, dangerous type of energy. Which brings us to our final core concept. The formula for victory. We're taught in school that facts win arguments.
Right. Data.
We are taught that cold, objective data is the ultimate weapon. These reviewers prove that is a lie. Blood, sweat, and intense personal obsession win arguments.
The myth of objectivity.
Andy Croft praises Hitchens for his acute, close readings with personal anecdote. And Robert Hanks says Hitchens writes with not just the intelligence, but the passion his subject deserves. Passion, personal anecdote, the injection of the self into the historical critique.
This breaks every single rule of traditional academic writing.
It really does. Academic intelligence is supposed to be cold. It is sterile. It relies on footnotes and emotional distance. But Hitchens wins precisely because he injects genuine passion. He makes it deeply personal. But wait, once you inject personal passion and anecdotes, don't you lose your authority? Don't you become just another angry guy on a soapbox? Shouldn't a historical critique be objective?
Authority based on cold detachment is a modern illusion. Real authority comes from risk. It comes from having skin in the game.
But doesn't passion cloud judgment?
Passion doesn't cloud judgment. Passion fuels endurance. Total objectivity is a dangerous shield used by intellectual cowards. When you are defending the truth against highly motivated, malicious lies, cold intelligence is completely useless. It is completely overwhelmed by passionate lies.
A passionate lie spreads 1,000 times faster than a cold fact.
Always. Look at the history of the 20th century. The most destructive ideological movements were not built on cold logic. They were built on white-hot, infectious passion. To defeat a passionate lie, intelligence must be weaponized with equal opposing passion. Fire must be fought with fire.
Hanks notes that Orwell deserves passion.
Orwell bled for his beliefs. Literally, he caught a fascist sniper's bullet in the throat while fighting in Spain. You do not write a dry, emotionally detached thesis about a man who took a bullet in the throat for the truth. You owe him your own blood. You owe him your own anger.
So the personal anecdote isn't a distraction from the text. It is proof of stakes.
When Hitchens uses a personal anecdote, he is grabbing the reader by the collar and saying, look, this isn't just an abstract theory. This affects my life. This affects how we live right now. He is pulling the debate out of the dusty library and dragging it into the street.
So we have a two-part formula here. The acute close reading provides the rigorous intelligence. It is the sniper scope. It locks onto the text. But the personal anecdote and the passion provide a gunpowder. They provide the velocity needed to actually drive the bullet through the target.
Intelligence without passion is a gun with no bullets. You can aim all day, but you can't stop the enemy. And passion without intelligence is just a drunk guy swinging wildly in the dark. Hitchens combines the rigorous precision of a scholar with the explosive, reckless heart of a street fighter.
The firecracker. We circle right back to the beginning. The formula is complete.
It is a consuming fire. Hitchens didn't just write a book. He fought a proxy war for the soul of a dead man.
Let's pull all of this together. We started by looking at a simple back cover, just 6 quotes. And what did we find hidden in those few words? We found the brutal, fascinating, completely counterintuitive reality of literary defense.
We dissected the anatomy of an intellectual rescue mission.
We learned that polite consensus is a graveyard, and sometimes you need to throw a firecracker to wake the dead. We learned that an author's biggest fans are often their worst kidnappers, performing intellectual taxidermy to turn humans into mascots.
We learned that when fighting bad faith, polite debate is just a trap. You have to roll up your sleeves, pick up a cudgel, and break their stance.
We explored the sniper's joy, the primal human catharsis of watching a liar get mathematically destroyed. We discovered that true homage isn't about copying a master's style, but matching their courage. We learned that a rose garden can be a front line against totalitarianism. And finally, we learned that cold facts must be weaponized with white-hot passion if they're going to survive at all.
It is a profound warning to all of us. Beware of the polite consensus. If nobody is dropping firecrackers, the room is already dead. And beware of becoming the fan who suffocates the idol.
Think about the historical figures you idolize. The writers, the politicians, the artists. Are you treating them as complex, heavy, contradictory humans? Or are you acting like an adherent? Are you hijacking their legacy to decorate your own modern opinions?
The waters of legacy are always muddy. Hitchens didn't stand on the shore trying to politely filter the water. He jumped in and started drowning the people who were muddying it.
I want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative thought. Something that has been bothering me this entire time. We've spent this entire deep dive analyzing how Christopher Hitchens used his cudgels, his firecrackers, and his absolute passion to rescue George Orwell from his followers.
A masterful, brutal rescue mission.
Christopher Hitchens is gone now, too. He died in 2011. He left behind his own massive, complicated, explosive legacy. He has his own legions of detractors. And crucially, he has his own fiercely loyal adherents.
Oh man, the cycle.
Hitchens spent this entire book rescuing Orwell from the fans who wanted to turn him into a political mascot. But now that Hitchens is gone, who's going to pick up a cudgel and rescue Hitchens from his followers?
That is a truly chilling question. The kidnappers are always waiting.
The firecracker has to be lit all over again by a new generation. Keep questioning, keep reading, and always watch out for the knee in the groin.